Let's go across to Professor Dan Casino. Thanks very much, Professor, for being with us. Let's talk about the swing states at this stage. Do you believe that in the context of very close elections, at least that's what everybody believes, it's these swing states that are going to decide which way the election goes?
Necessarily. The swing states are what sets up the entire election. The American system, remember, is something set up in the 18th century. It's a very old system. Americans are very proud of the fact they have the oldest system. That's a little like being proud you have the oldest car on the block. I mean, it's impressive that it still runs, but doesn't mean it's necessarily a good system. And so what we've seen is Pennsylvania being called the Keystone State, and it is the key to this election. Both campaigns finished up their electoral bids in Pennsylvania last night, and both campaigns think that whoever wins Pennsylvania will win the election. It's very difficult to imagine any way Kamala Harris can win the election without winning Pennsylvania. And Trump, who took Pennsylvania in 2016, really needs to repeat if he wants to win. So it is these swing states, and that means that enormous amounts of time, effort, and money have gone into those states. If you happen to live in a swing state like Pennsylvania or Michigan or Arizona, you've been seeing nothing but electoral ads on your TV at this point for 3 to 6 months. Voters there are a little sick of the election, if we're being totally honest, and they are thrilled to finally have this over with.
In terms of the big election issues, at the end of the day, would you agree that perhaps the economy is the big issue? I know that Kamala Harris has been focusing on, for example, abortion, healthcare, immigration as well. Both sides have been focusing on that. But do you believe the economy, price rise, inflation is perhaps a potential decider?
The economy was the most important issue back over the summer in July. What we've seen in the past couple weeks is that gas prices have fallen, inflation has cooled down quite a bit, and both campaigns have really stopped talking about it. The election has switched much more to being about immigration on the Republican side, and of course, abortion rights on the Democratic side.
What about health care and climate? Are these issues, in Pennsylvania important? Is this something that voters have been talking about?
Climate is important to the extent that it interacts with fossil fuels. Pennsylvania is the largest producer of fracking, natural gas, gotten through this very strange process where they force water down into shale in order to get natural gas out. And so Republicans have argued that Democrats, by trying to move towards solar power and other alternative powers, green energy sources, are against fracking, which would be bad for the Pennsylvania economy. So energy has been an issue there. But honestly, if you are a voter on the environment, we already know how you're going to vote. The environment, environmental voters are already backing the Democrats. So it has not been as much an issue. Healthcare is almost a settled issue in the United States. Republicans for decades talked about trying to overturn Obamacare, and they have kind of stopped talking about that, with former President Trump now saying he's a champion of Obamacare, and actually being a bit of a distraction when the leader of the House of Representatives, Republican, said that they were going to look into actually repealing Obamacare or doing something to change it.
In terms of the campaign strategies of both sides, some would suggest that Trump has been involved in an entirely negative campaign, fear-mongering, personal attacks, use of misinformation, character assassination, etc., whereas Kamala Harris has been more issue-oriented. Now, this isn't to suggest that Trump's strategy is necessarily wrong. We'll know perhaps at some stage tomorrow. But would you say that even just a couple of hours back, that's the way Trump ended, with aggression, which has been his style?
Yes, certainly. In the last couple of weeks, Trump's campaign has been trying very hard to get him to focus on issues. They believe if he talks about the economy, if he talks about immigration, he can win. But they've had trouble keeping him on topic. He wants to talk about how much he dislikes Kamala Harris, and sometimes weirdly about how much he thinks Joe Biden is doing a bad job, even though he's not running against Joe Biden. So this has been much the chagrin of his entire campaign, and honestly, to a lot of his voters who do actually support him on issues like immigration, like the economy. They want to hear him talk more about those things. This is not to say that the Democratic side has not been negative. There has been a lot of talk about that former President Trump is a fascist. And we've seen Vice President Harris and certainly your Vice Presidential nominee, Tim Walz, talking about that talking point a lot. So it has been negative, and a lot of Democrats are turning out not necessarily to vote for Kamala Harris, but definitely to vote against Donald Trump.
All right, Professor Dan Casino, wonderful speaking to you. Thank you very much.